Poker Hero here with another PokerCruncher tutorial. Hoping to get you guys more familiarized with using this program. So if you like the content you're seeing here, certainly hit subscribe or hit the like button. I've got a couple emails and stuff with some positive feedback. So I'm glad to keep making these if you guys want to keep seeing them. So I handpicked this example to kind of go over a point that happens a lot in small stakes poker, and the fact that the opponents will play random hands at random times when the range seems unusual. It's certainly hard to correctly get an equity calculation and stuff like that. So we're going to look at some example here where the guy's a random player. So you'll see I've hid the HUD stats here on purpose. In reality, I only had 20 hands on the guy at the time. It's a 2NL game. It's a lower level than I'm currently playing, at least. It's from a while ago. So let's make the assumption here the guy's loose but not crazy. Certainly within the 2NL constraints. If you saw a guy with a VPIP of 40 and a pre-flop raise of 25, that's certainly not unreasonable here. So that's certainly consider him a random, normal 2NL player, probably a little bit too loose. Excuse me. Let's see what happens here. So pre-flopper in the big blind with aces, you gotta love that. And it folds to villain in the small blind. When it folds to you in the small blind, the situation you should be raising with a relatively wide range to try to just steal the big blind. I defend against this pretty well, and if he picked up on that, he should still be defending, or raising with something like 40% of hands. And I'm giving you as an example is that his range will be relatively wide here. He does open from the small blind. In defense to that, I should be calling pretty wide because I know he's doing it with a wide range, and I should also be 3-betting very wide. So I'm telling you that because I do 3-bet here, villain does call. So just because I 3-bet here, because he started with so many hands and it's a situation where ranges are going to be very wide, it doesn't narrow him down to like a nice clean, 40 combinations or hands like we had previously. Ranges are still going to be pretty wide. I came over here and I tried to give it my best guess on what his range would look like. So we're player one here. We have the aces. A guy like this should 4-bet his very best hands, probably being jacks plus, ace king, ace queen suited, maybe a king queen suited, maybe not king queen suited, but let's leave that in here. You know what? No, I'm gonna mark that off. Probably does not 4-bet a king queen suited, and we'll just call with that. That's fine. You can certainly argue that this is not correct. Some of these guys, when they think they have a good hand, they get raised. They're likely to 4-bet you with something like jacks or tens, which is not perhaps ideal. So we can argue this is not perfect, but let's go with it. It kind of goes along with our assumption here that if he's starting to open 40% of hands or something, he's going to 4-bet some of them when I raise, and he's going to fold out, I guess 50% of his range here. This may be too tight. He may be calling much wider than this, but you got to give these guys credit for a reasonable range. You can kind of always work backwards and you always want to calculate a worst case scenario. So right now, I got to have 85% equity. Yeah, against his range, just going to the flop, we have 83% equity, and you got to love that. So flop comes king 8-9. King 8-9. Get the suits right. 8's a diamond. Shouldn't really matter. So before we even see the action here, how does this help us? So obviously this is a great flop because it's not terribly connected. There's no obvious flush draws. There's some straight draws around it. There's a 2-pair combination. 9-8 suited. There's 2 combos of that. King 9 suited. There's 2 combos of that. I think we would have had that in his range. Yep. King 8 suited he probably doesn't have here or probably shouldn't have here. So there's not a ton of value hands for him. He does have the sets of 8s and 9s. So if you look here, he has 3 sets of 9s because you can always, if you look over here for all these combinations or all these hands, it tells you the number of combinations. So you see here like pocket 9s, there's 3 of them. Pocket 10s, there's 6. Because there's a 9 on the board, there's half as many combinations of pocket pairs when there's one of them on the board. So 3 combinations of 9s, 3 combinations of 8s, so he has 6 sets. 2 combinations of 9-8 suited, 2 combinations of king 9 suited. So there's only 10 hands out of 174 that actually have us concerned. So that's about 7% of his range that has us concerned here. Everything else is probably drawing thin, and that's a great place to be in. So here's why we're looking at this, because the guy opened jams. So let's talk from a strategic standpoint. And as I said, I picked this example because it's very hard to tell what these guys do in this situation. If you've played with a guy a long time, it's hard to pick up on that. And certainly within 20 hands, you don't know what he's going to do here. I will tell you from my experience, when guys make big moves like this, it's almost either always with the nuts or with nothing, and kind of not stuff in between. You can pick up on that trend with people, or if you see them shove, it's always the nuts, you got to know that. Or if it's always air, you can kind of know that. Most of them, like I said, don't play in between, but let's start calculating where we're at here. So first of all, I'll just also go back. If you're ever in this villain shoes, and let's say you had pocket nines or something, though, this is a board I'm going to see bet a whole lot. You're much better off check raising and getting that bet out of me. Because if I did have, I don't know, pocket sevens or something here, which I probably would 3-bet the small blind open, yeah, I'm just folding that out here immediately, and you're only getting a third or half pot bet out of me. Well, I'm sorry, you are getting that bet out of me, where if you jam, I'm just going to fold those automatically. So you're always better off getting, even if it's only like a half pot bet, you're better off getting that 18 cents out of me than nothing. So terrible lead. I don't recommend that. So let's figure it out. So I'm going to clear this guy's range. You can always just drag this over here and hit remove. That'll remove all the hands you put in there. So remember what his range looked like a second ago. We said the hands we were scared about were 9s, 8s, 9-8 suited, king 9 suited. So these are the hands that if he was doing this with just purely for value, these are hands that we're in tough shape against. I'm guessing against this pure range of hands, you're basically drawing to an ace or another pair on the board, meaning you only have 10% equity. All right, 15, not too far off. So certainly if that's the case, he's only doing that with the nut hands, you're in trouble. Well, we don't know that he's only doing it with the nut hands. If he truly had the nuts, this is not a particularly good strategy, I'll tell you that. Let's expand it a little bit. So we said that he would 4-bet ace-king. We did say that he would call with king-queen. So what if he's doing this with top pair second kicker? So the first thing you'll notice is there's 12 combinations of king-queen. There's only 10 combinations of the nut hands. So right here, you know there's 10 combinations of hands you're losing to, 12 that you're beating. So right here, you can kind of do that math in your head, and you know that you have more combinations you're beating than you're losing to. So right now, that's got to put you up to 53% equity, something like that. All right, just over 50, fine. But let's go back to the board here. So what are the pot odds here? So we have to call 182. To win a pot, there'll be our 182. 0.82. I realize it says it up top, plus another 182, plus 0.36. So an even $4. We had a $2 stack to start. So we got to call 1.82 divided by 4. So we need 45% equity to continue, which is this number up here. Well, if this guy's doing it with only the nuts and you know that, it's a fold. But if he's doing it with anything wider than that, including simply top pair and second kicker, you have the correct equity to call and to call profitably. Because you have 50% equity here and you only need 45 to call. So when you see these scenarios and you don't know what the guy is doing, what I recommend is exactly this. Start with the worst case scenario. See how you add up. In this case, not too good. Start adding just one or two hands that if he widened his range, where he was doing this for value but for lesser value, how does that make you look? And right here, you quickly, with only adding top pair second kicker here, this turns from a fold to a call. So let's say he was doing that sporadically. Let's say he's doing that with king jack also. 60% equity. King 10. All right, still 60% equity. What if he only did king queen, but he also did queen jack for the open that is straight draw, and he probably has 7-6 down here if he's going to do that. There you're up to 66% equity. So again, I don't know what this guy's going to do, and spoiler alert, I looked at the end and it certainly is surprising. And that is why you figure this out, that you figure out your worst case scenario here, and you kind of work backwards, and how many additional hands do you have to add to it so that you have the equity to call. So I'm going to just do this one more time because I think this is important. the range we gave him pre-flop only had these value hands in it that you lose to. You can take a look and see what equity you have against that. It's pretty bad. If you start adding in just simple hands that he may do this with that are value hands that are worse than yours. So after the two pairs, after the sets are his best value hand. After that are the two pairs. After that, it's a top pair type hand. So if you add the sets, the two pairs, and you add in some of the top pairs here, you start finding the equity pretty quick where this is a call. So I did call here. I'll let you watch it play out. Queen. So how did the queen? Probably pretty good. He could have had king, queen. He could have had those things. That's not great for us. 5. So a queen 8. So even if you remember back to the pre-flop range we assigned this guy, it was certainly much wider. This hand is much wider than we had him playing. So that's why it's important to use the strategy of kind of taking the worst case scenario and working backwards, because you don't know how wide he's doing this. And if you can beat his best hands and some of the logical second best hands, you're going to be in pretty good shape against the random bluffs like this. So he got there. I mean, we lost the hand, but if you look it in there, I mean, we probably had, when we went in on the flop, 90% equity. Anytime you have that, that is certainly a win. He didn't even have a gut shot to go with it. I'm looking to see, he would have had to get Jack 10 to get the gut shot, so that wasn't even it. So don't know what these guys are doing sometimes, and again, that's why I'm going to tell you to start with the worst case scenario, then slowly add value hands to see where your equity is. And often you'll find if you just add a couple hands that are a little bit further down the value list for the villain, you're going to find it turns into a call pretty quick. So thanks for watching, guys. Certainly, if you have a hand you want to submit, any questions, you can always send them to us at pokerheroonline@gmail.com. Good luck, guys. Go ahead and crush it.